You're listening to Hot Topics on Good Mix Radio, hosted by Mike Melody and Sheila Harmony. And each week, they dive into the top trends, pop culture moments, and viral stories dominating the web. They unpack the chaos with humor, sharp takes, and insights you won't find anywhere else.
Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to try and make sense of that really chaotic mix of news and trends that flooded our feeds in the fourth week of September.
Yeah, it was quite something. Looking through the sources, it felt like every possible kind of big story hit all at once.
It really did. It was this bizarre week where you had these four huge, completely different narratives, all demanding attention at the same time.
Exactly. And when we dug into the source material, it was clear that all the major emotional buttons were getting pushed simultaneously. You had huge achievement, really shocking tragedy, massive celebrity buzz, and then intense controversy.
So our sources cover everything from the Ballon d'Or soccer's big prize to this really upsetting d4vd investigation, Cardi B's enormous album launch, and that whole firestorm around Jimmy Kimmel's monologue. And our goal today, it isn't just to, rehash the headlines. We want to figure out how this convergence happened.
Right. How did these completely different things, sports, a tragic investigation, music, late-night TV, how did they all end up dominating the conversation together? It forced everyone to process, joy and grief and anger almost in the same breath.
Yeah, it was dizzying.
So we're basically tracking the emotional weight and the digital breadcrumbs, if you will, that pulled these stories together into this one kind of frantic feed. It's about dissecting that perfect storm of public focus.
Okay.
So where should we start? Maybe with the high point, the achievement.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's start at the top. The Ballon d'Or, this award, it goes way back to 1956. It's not just some sports trophy. It's seen globally as the absolute peak for an individual soccer player.
And every year, it turns into this huge cultural thing way beyond just sports fans.
Absolutely. And what was really interesting this year for 2023 was how fast the nominee list just exploded online. The competition felt, extra intense.
It really did.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just fierce. There was this historical layer to it. You had established legends kind of going up against these really bright rising stars.
Yeah.
That always amps up the drama.
Totally. For the men's side, the narrative was, pretty classic, right? You've got absolute giants like Lionel Messi. His whole career story is epic against someone like Kylian Mbappe, who's just incredibly talented and, young.
Yeah.
And the pundits, they were all over the place. Is it about legacy or is it about who had the best season right now? That disagreement, that's what fuels engagement much more than if there was just one obvious winner.
And you see that same high level of competition, that same buzz on the women's side too, which thankfully is getting much more of the mainstream attention it deserves.
Right.
The sources really highlighted players like Aitana Bonmati and Alexia Putellas. They weren't just key to their teams winning, they're genuinely shaping the women's game globally.
Yeah, huge impact.
And just announcing the nominees, that alone sparked millions of posts, debates, fan arguments. It just shows the award still has this massive cultural pull.
Okay, so that's the global aspiration, the big achievement story. Planned, prestigious, gets everyone talking. But then the week took this sharp, unsettling turn, didn't it?
Yeah, that's kind of the whiplash of the modern news cycle, right? You go from that high-stakes, controlled world of elite sports straight into the chaos and, frankly, the horror of a real-life tragedy.
You're talking about the d4vd investigation.
Exactly. That story grabbed intense public focus because it was this awful human tragedy mixed with this, weirdly cinematic mystery element. And crucially, there was a celebrity connection.
The details are they're genuinely shocking. Finding Celeste Rivas Hernandez's body, finding it inside a damaged Tesla, a high-end car, and not just found anywhere, but discovered by tow yard staff during a routine check at a Hollywood tow yard. That detail alone just makes you go, wait, what? It fuels so much speculation.
And the timeline is key to understanding why it felt so unsettling. The sources say the Tesla was just left, abandoned, on September 10th. It gets towed 2 days later, September 12th. But the body, it wasn't discovered until 3 days after that, September 15th.
Wow.
The fact that the car just sat there,
Yeah.
in a secure lot apparently, for days before anyone found her, that adds this whole other layer of complexity. And the media, they jumped right on that.
And here's the piece that really blew it up. The reason it wasn't just a local LA story, the d4vd connection.
Yeah.
He's this rising music star, right? Known for this unique R&B, alt-pop sound. His fame basically gave the story the digital boost it needed to go national. It amplified the whole mystery through that celebrity lens.
Which is a pattern we see again and again. Now, contrast that grim reality, that investigation, with something completely different happening the same week. The huge fanfare around Cardi B's album release, Am I the Drama?
Talk about emotional whiplash.
Exactly. That juxtaposition, the serious investigation next to this massive high-energy music launch, it's a perfect snapshot of how our feeds work now. All these different worlds colliding.
And reading the reviews for Cardi's album, it wasn't just about sales, though obviously it did incredibly well. It was the scope of it. Even the title, Am I the Drama? It suggests she's playing with her public image, right?
Very self-aware.
The production sounded top-notch, mixing trap with newer sounds, really pushing her style forward.
And lyrically, yeah, it covered a lot of ground. Empowerment, success, but also some pretty sharp social commentary baked in there. You mentioned versatility, and those collaboration tracks definitely showed that off.
Yeah, the lead single Drama Queen set the stage. Then there was that big feature on the track Drama with another major rapper.
Right.
But the one that seemed to really get people talking instantly, the one that fuels endless online debate, was Rumors. That track just kicked off immediate speculation. Who's it about? What's the story? And that kind of detailed fan analysis, that fragmentation, that keeps an album trending long after release week.
Oh, absolutely. And commercially, huge success. Straight to the top of the charts, multiple tracks hitting platinum almost right away. It just confirmed, Cardi B and the culture around her, they're a massive force. Can't ignore it.
Okay, so we've got sports highs, tragic lows, celebrity excitement. Which brings us to the fourth thread, and this one got messy. Pure political controversy.
The Jimmy Kimmel situation.
Let's dive into that, because it sparked a major firestorm.
Yeah, this one's important because it really pushed boundaries. Kimmel's monologue about the death of Charlie Kirk, it became this huge flashpoint. It forced this national conversation about where the lines are for political satire, especially on late-night TV.
The way the sources described it, Kimmel's segment wasn't just a critique, it was scathing. Really intense, hitting on very sensitive subjects about Kirk's political history and rhetoric.
Less like a respectful disagreement, more like an ideological attack framed as comedy. That's how many saw it.
And the parts that really ignited the backlash seemed to be the references to the MAGA movement.
Definitely. Critics immediately jumped on that, saying he was insensitive, that he was using someone's death to score political points and just deepen divisions. They argued it crossed the line, basic decency.
But the line that really seemed to detonate was that analogy he used, comparing reactions to Kirk's death to mourning a goldfish.
Oof. Yeah. That one landed hard.
One side saw it as completely dismissive, mocking, just cruel, but the other side fiercely defended it, saying it was sharp satire, aimed right at what they saw as political hypocrisy or performative grief.
And that's the core of it, that immediate, sharp split. You have people rushing to defend Kimmel, free speech, satire needs to be edgy, all that.
Right.
And at the exact same time, you had this huge wave of condemnation, viewers, commentators hitting a network, saying they shouldn't have aired something so insensitive.
And the network reacted fast. Program suspended, pending an investigation. That just shows how quickly things can escalate when political comedy hits a nerve like that, especially regarding cultural sensitivities or perceived disrespect. The commercial pressure is immense.
It's a very fine line they walk, isn't it? Always navigating that commercial reality.
Definitely. Okay, so let's pull back now for the big picture. The synthesis, the aha moment, maybe. We've got massive sports achievement, a deeply disturbing investigation, huge celebrity hype, and this raw political outrage. How on earth did all these incredibly different, high-impact stories dominate the same single week?
Well, if you connect the dots, the answer really lies in hitting all the core emotional triggers at once. The convergence isn't accidental, it's kind of engineered by our digital behavior, by the algorithms.
So,
Stories that provoke strong, immediate emotions like shock, excitement, anger, empathy, they're just built for virality. They spread faster in today's fragmented media world.
So the fourth week of September was like a perfect storm because it triggered everything.
Pretty much. You had the awe and aspiration from the Ballon d'Or. You had the shock, horror, and empathy from the d4vd investigation. You had the excitement and, let's face it, consumer buzz around Cardi B. And then the righteous anger and division from the Kimmel monologue.
Yeah, oh yeah.
When all those emotional buttons get slammed at the same time, the overall noise, the volume of conversation, it just becomes overwhelming.
And you could actually see this in the data, right? Like the engagement metric.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. The search volume for the Ballon d'Or nominees just spiked massively.
Yeah.
Huge passive interest there. Meanwhile, Cardi B's album, that was generating intense active engagement, fans creating content, discussing lyrics, especially younger audiences on platforms like TikTok and Instagram. Millions of interactions.
That demographic split is interesting too. Older media, sports fans, they dug into the Ballon d'Or with detailed analysis, but younger, more online audiences were all over Cardi B and the real-time, almost minute-by-minute updates on the d4vd story.
Right. And platforms like Twitter and Instagram, they acted like these giant melting pots where all these different narratives were forced together in your feed, whether you wanted them or not.
And the media coverage itself played a role in amplifying this.
Definitely. Mainstream outlets often provided the detailed context, the analysis for stories like the Ballon d'Or or the nuances of the Kimmel debate. They gave it weight. But the framing of those stories, the initial hook, often came from the emotional commentary already boiling up on social media.
So it's like a feedback loop.
Exactly. Social media generates the initial, often fragmented, high-emotion buzz. Mainstream media then picks up the most viral or controversial bits, packages them, gives them structure, and broadcasts them wider. That synergy creates this snowball effect. It keeps everything, the achievement, the tragedy, the outrage, visible and trending until the next big thing comes along.
And the language they use matters too, right? The headlines, the summaries.
Hugely important. Whether it was the grim details of the investigation or the political fight, the language used was often highly emotive, designed to grab you, to maximize that psychological pull, get the click, get the view. Engagement is the name of the game, often more than deep context.
So this incredible pileup of really intense stories, all in 1 week, it really did shape the conversation at the end of September. It just shows, I guess, how much we're drawn to stories that make us feel something strongly, no matter what the topic is.
It certainly does. And the fallout from these events, the legal process and the investigation, the ongoing debate about media boundaries that impact lasts much longer than just 1 week's news cycle, it really highlights how volatile public attention is now.
Well, thanks for helping us unpack that incredibly dense week.
It was
a lot.
My pleasure. It really was. And maybe here's something for you, the listener, to think about as you process all this. We talked about media framing and emotional triggers. How does constantly engaging with this fragmented, highly emotional, viral content affect our ability, maybe even our patience, to engage with more nuanced stories? Stories that take time, like long-term achievement. Are we, maybe as a culture, becoming wired more for the quick emotional hit, the sprint, rather than appreciating the marathon? Something to consider.